Socrates lived from 470 to 399 BCE in Athens, Greece. During his 71 years, he was so impactful he would have topped the Forbes most influential list for sure. Strangely enough, he didn't put pen to paper for any of his great works. Instead, they were enthusiastically recorded by his student, Plato. Today, Socrates' wisdom is being seen as a great inspiration for how to tackle the modern business world. The Socratic culture that results from adopting Socrates' principles creates an engaging, driven, and intense environment. The focus is always on the best possible outcome, since all shareholders are considered. We've gathered 15 life lessons we can learn from Socrates to build better business practices. Let's go back to ancient Greece and consider some of the greatest reflections of Socrates that are becoming popular in modern business. Number 1. I am the wisest man alive, for I know one thing, and that is that I know nothing. Socrates begins with humility, for he realized that the more knowledge you gain, the more you realize you don't know. Those who believe they are experts in a field often don't know as much as they think, as their narrow realizations prove they only know very little, and so they believe they know enough. Socrates instead approached every topic from a point of complete ignorance and scrutinized it to build a better understanding. If we realize there's no end to knowledge, we'll never exhaust the potential to solve problems and create new opportunities. Number 2. The unexamined life is not worth living. Socrates was clear that to be able to operate successfully in the world, you first need to understand your own inner workings. This is not about what you want to be or what you own and what you want to have in the future. This is about looking within the soul of ourselves. In doing so, you'll be aware of what you're good at and what you're not, so you can focus on your strengths and help your weaknesses. This idea also relates to the idea of ignorance and how living a life without understanding how it works simply isn't worth living at all. Number 3. I cannot teach anybody anything. I can only make them think. Another of Socrates' humbling principles is similar to the saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. The role of a true leader is to empower those below you, but there's no way to force anyone to onboard knowledge. The best way to achieve this is to engage them to think, and this is where the best business practices are finding a new groove and reaping the rewards. Keep watching for more on this. Number 4. Understanding a question is half an answer. So, how does one get the horse to drink, or think in this case? Socrates placed great importance in asking questions. In fact, it was often the way he taught. You might have already noticed the Socratic method creeping into boardrooms and conferences you've attended. It's basically a series of questions being asked in various techniques. The idea is to engage critical thinking. Instead of asking your team simple questions like, what were the figures for the fourth quarter? Rather, engage a discussion that can lead to understanding and solutions, such as, what do you think led to the figures we achieved in the fourth quarter? Then listen to the answers. A big part many of us forget about asking questions is allowing people the time to answer them while we listen. Typically, we ask questions to gain 3 types of insights: priorities, possibilities, and probabilities. Use different questions to help hone in on what your needed particular outcome is. Number 5. Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. This saying is used in yearbooks, blogs, and passive-aggressive fridge magnets in the office. It isn't actually certain if it was summarized in these words by Socrates, but it does line up with his values. This one is quite self-explanatory to A-Luxers like you, so let's move on. Number 6. Education is the kindling of a flame, not the filling of a vessel. Socrates saw himself as someone who spread a lust for wisdom by challenging norms and inspiring wonder. He was later considered a heretic as he questioned the ancient Greek mythologies that explained everything from lightning to a successful harvest. Socrates preferred to lean on scientific understanding more than ancient stories. He wasn't very verbose about these beliefs, but the questions he asked at debates clearly spelled it out. Many business leaders can learn from this. Inspire your team by questioning commonly held beliefs through robust dialogues, instead of just monologuing about your own beliefs. Number 7. Strong minds discuss ideas. Average minds discuss events. Weak minds discuss people. According to Socrates, we give away the state of our minds by what we discuss with others. He hints that the greatest topic of discussion is to explore and examine ideas with one another. This way, we can also stay free from negative actions like slander and gossip, but more on Socrates' strong feelings later. Number 8. The way to gain a good reputation is to endeavor to be what you desire to appear. Many before and many after him have shared similar sentiments to Socrates on this one. From the Dalai Lama to John Lennon, we should all be the change we want to see in the world, and the change begins within. Many of us carry a righteous ego, quick to call out others doing what is against our definition of good, but few of us exude these values of good living in our daily life. Socrates puts it to us to live out the reputation we believe we deserve so we can genuinely gain it. Number 9. To move the world, we must move ourselves. Staying with the theme of change beginning with us, Socrates also points out we cannot expect the world to adapt and change without us first adapting and adopting a change of mindset. In business, it's also important to remember that if you want to introduce a disruptive technology, you better be the first to be willing to be disrupted. And if you're struggling to motivate yourself, why not watch our video on 10 ways to stop procrastinating? Number 10. Employ your time improving yourself by other men's writings, so that you shall gain easily what others have labored hard for. Socrates was a humble man who had no problem with taking advice from others, and he tirelessly studied the writings of others. In doing so, he didn't begin with his own philosophies from ground level, but rather leveraged already established knowledge and was able to build on top of it. It's the old-fashioned principle of not reinventing the wheel. Many entrepreneurs would do well to go back to basics and get up to speed with what business greats before us have already established, and then build from there before going at it alone when a roadmap is already available. Number 11. Beware of the barrenness of a busy life. It's a commonly understood belief that if you need something to be done, give it to a busy person. And while idleness can breed idleness, many business leaders are opting to stay away from busyness. All these years ago, long before social media and mobile phones, Socrates recognized that busyness can be meaningless and often results in less being done, or at least less important accomplishments being achieved. He was also clear that for parents, their most important investment is in their children, not in material wealth, because at the end of the day, your children will inherit your wealth as adults, but cannot care for themselves as children. So focus on the job at hand and parent them properly, which will reap far greater wealth. Number 12. It's not living that matters, but living rightly. Socrates was clear that doing evil harms the doer more than the person being wronged, because the person being wronged still has their virtue. He believed that in knowledge we understand good versus evil and thereby gain virtue. Gaining virtue was the only way to find happiness. And this couldn't be truer in business, because no matter how well your business is doing, if we know it's successful because of the exploitation of others, we'll never have true fulfillment or happiness. This is clear in the move to more ethical business practices and by a market demand for corporations to uphold higher moral values. Living rightly and virtuously has never been more important in business than it is right now, but more on this in our last lesson. Number 13. He is a man of courage who does not run away, but remains at his post and fights against the enemy. Socrates believed in facing your demons and seeing a task through. Of course, this does require you to have followed the previous advice and be sure you're in the right place, you're the right person for the job, and the battle is the right one for you. If you answer yes to these, it's your time to have courage and not avoid the battle. Avoiding battle merely delays the problem, whatever it is. It doesn't solve it. Number 14. Remember, there is nothing stable in human affairs. Therefore, avoid undue elation in prosperity or undue depression in adversity. As an entrepreneur, you've probably been told to get a stable job and an income you can rely on rather than pursue your business venture. But Socrates points out that nothing is stable or predictable. Therefore, we shouldn't put too much emphasis on celebrating our achievements, and on the flip side, not too much weight on our failures either. In adopting this mindset, we learn that nothing is constant but change, and the only way to measure our personal success is really in our ability to navigate good or bad moments and keep moving ahead. And if you're enjoying these business lessons, head over to one of our other business leader videos. Why not start with Elon Musk? I am not an Athenian nor a Greek, but a citizen of the world. I am not an Athenian nor a Greek, but a citizen of the world. Socrates was probably the first global citizen long before Reddit, Facebook, or Twitter helped us find our international tribe online. Socrates had already gained the insight that before any creed or nationality, we're part of a global community. For some of us, it took a tragedy like the COVID-19 outbreak to realize our interconnectedness as a species and our interreliability as the human race. Socrates was way ahead of the curve, and his renouncement of his nationhood cost him his life, but he never lost his humanity.